My mother and I never seemed to get along. She always seemed to pick faults. When will you move out? Her nagging voice never seemed to stop. She'd been like that since my father left her for a younger woman. She always used to poke fun at my weight, never attending any of my school achievements and always seeming ashamed of me. Lately, though, she just looks at me with such hatred in her eyes. It's almost chilling. I wish I'd disposed of them along with the rest of her. I found out last Thursday. They always said I was good at keeping a straight face. The sky isn't real. Don't look at it for too long. They start to look back. You have probably seen them before, but they are good at making you forget. Next time you see them, don't pretend you didn't. That's why I remember. The six of us had known each other all our lives. We've come here every year since we were 13. This year is a big one, the 15th year. Our last trip was a little contentious because two of our members had broken up a month before. But this year, the wounds have healed and we're looking forward to 3 glorious days of hiking, swimming, and getting drunk. It's foggy as we walk up the long path, but that's alright. We know the way. We've done this many times. We set up 3 tents where we'll sleep 2 each. It's finicky to make the little arrangements. Some of us are uncomfortable with sharing with certain others. We make it work. We're friends, old friends. We've been through it all. We start a fire, and even though the damp afternoon has given way to a dank, cool evening, we break out bottles and pass them around, telling stories and jokes. One of us even gets up and does a jig, almost landing in the fire until another saves them. We talk so loud we're nearly yelling, and our laughter could be mistaken for brays at the moon. One by one we start to drift off, and make our ways into tents to sleep, and I am the last to go to bed, but I am startled awake. It's dark. I can't see my tent mate just feet from me. At first I am unsure what's woken me, but then I realize I hear singing. If it can be called that, it's low, toneless, a croaking that vibrates inside my head, with indistinct words and no discernible rhythm. I'm not sure how I know the singing, only that I do. It's come closer and closer. Before long I hear the clomp of heavy steps landing in time with the horrid noise. The sounds continue to approach until I'm not sure how they haven't passed us yet. I still can't see my tent mate in the pitch black, but I can hear their breathing in long, tremulous drags. They are awake. They hear it too. Finally, the sound seems to be right outside, and then, quite suddenly, they stop. There is a moment of total silence, in which neither my tent mate or I can breathe. It goes on for too long, dragging until I'm sure it was a dream, sure there was nothing in the first place. That's when I hear it. It has to be an explosion, but how could it be so close and not see any light or feel any heat? I know my tent mate hears it too, because we were both scrambling for the flap out into the dimly lit circle of the waning embers of our campfire. If there was an explosion, I see no evidence of it. All I see is my friends, standing around the fire, dazed and bewildered. My stomach sinks because, as far as I know, the 7 of us have known each other all our lives. Most people in today's society, especially in Western society, look miserable, especially on a Monday morning, which is the ever-dreaded start of the working week. You cannot help yourself but to observe the sea of unhappy, unsmiling faces either in some crowded elevator, crowded bus, or in a crowd of people walking to work. That's how the unsmiling man hides or camouflages himself to be undetected by immersing himself in a crowd of miserable-looking faces who are not smiling also. I mean, he might have walked past you or vice versa, and you wouldn't have noticed. It's a shame how, in today's time and era, so many people are miserable. Depression is the air we breathe. I actually saw the unsmiling man once, but it was only for 2 minutes. It was the unsmiling man at his weakest. It was a Friday when everyone starts to smile a bit more and become less tense. There was a crowd of people smiling, and I was walking in the opposite direction. I could see something in the crowd, struggling and trying as if to escape. I was also on the opposite pavement. Then, when the smiling crowd dispersed and all that was left was the unsmiling man, just looking helpless and useless. His unsmiling face stretched to impossible lengths. He then floated in the air and turning himself to be upside down to make his unsmiling face look like a smile. I could feel my face trying to copy the unsmiling man's face until I collapsed. I woke with the ambulance around me, who let me go because I was fine. I always start to experience heavy anxiety whenever I'm walking in a crowd of miserable, unsmiling faces. He taps on my window at night. Maybe because he's feeling lonely. His long, brittle claws leave marks on the glass. My aunt always blames me. Monsters aren't real, she sneers. I don't believe her. If he scares me so much, he must be a monster, right? Sometimes he leans his ear against the back door to check if I'm awake. He must have super great hearing. I'll barely shift in my bed and he'll call for me. His hair gets caught on the hinges. I find it sometimes. It's like black tar. It feels greasy and damaged. Every now and then when I catch a glimpse of his eyes through my blinds, when I'm feeling brave enough to peek out from under the sheets, they're beady and yellow. Or maybe that's just the color of the shine in the streetlight. I hear his voice often, deep, raspy, but comforting. Open the door. I'm scared. Doesn't he understand that I'm scared too? Who are you? When you're blind, you realize pretty quickly that you're going to have to get used to answering the same questions a lot. Most of them are harmless. Yes, I can use the internet, just differently than you. Some of them are a little intrusive. I don't really feel like describing my bathroom procedures, thanks. But the one that's always guaranteed to come up is also my favorite. Is it true that the rest of your senses are like superpowered? Now, the honest truth is that I have no goddamn clue whether or not this is true. I was born blind, so I don't really have a reference point to be working from. But I figured if I couldn't see like everyone else, I could at least have my friends convinced I had some Daredevil/X-Man mojo flowing. So yeah, I could hear a pin drop in the other room, or smell what you had for lunch that day, or whatever else people threw at me. A lot of people would just take my word for it, and sometimes people would even test it and walk away convinced it was still true. But I always just chalked that up to be confirmation bias. The thing is, I'm starting to think everyone else must have been right, except it might just be a little delayed. Because when I walked into my apartment tonight, I thought I was the only one here, but the longer I sat there, the more convinced I am that I'm not. Because I can hear his heart in his chest and his slow, whispered breathing. I can smell the fresh, metallic stench of blood on him. And even though I couldn't tell you how, I can feel him standing there, between me and the door, waiting and watching and trying to decide how to play this out, which I guess makes two of us. So it's true, my senses are stronger than most people. Now I just hope I'll get the chance to tell anyone. I'm concerned about your future. I don't want you to be a fuck-up. My father ran his hands through his salt and pepper hair. A solemn look etched on his face. Honey, you know your father and I love you, but being direct has never been my mother's strong point. But this and but that, she never said what she meant. Traditions were everything in my family, whether old or new. Those traditions are sacred, like my father before him was the most tired phrase in the household. I was a true individual and that was something my parents could never understand. When's the last time you left the house? You know, when your brother was your age, he... Please don't talk about Bill. For once in my life, don't compare me to him. Taking a deep breath, I crossed my arms across my chest, a muted frown appearing. Fine. I'm tired of this nice crap anyways. You're coming tonight. Hell or high water, you're coming. In a huff, my father left the room, forcefully slamming the door behind him. He loves you in his own way, sweetie, he really does. My mother really knew how to shine a turd. His own way. I can't tell you how much behavior has been excused with those words. Yeah, I know, I responded dully, too tired to argue anymore. He's right, though. You really need to come tonight. It's what we do. It's what makes us a family, don't forget that. With those parting words, she went downstairs to begin dinner. If nothing else, my mother was a fantastic cook. Even Julia Chad would have been in awe. She was that good. A delicious smell wafted up the stairs, and I followed it begrudgingly. Sitting in silence, we slurped down spoonfuls of mouth-watering chili. It was the best thing I'd ever tasted, driving me to greedily eat more and more. The pot seemed endless, and I ate as if it was. Smiling, my parents stood up together at the end of the meal. With a snap of his wrist, my father pulled back the window curtains gleefully. I'm sorry, son. We didn't mean to trick you, but it's for the best. For a man claiming remorse, he was clearly rather content with himself. A full moon shone through the window, its pale light cascading in. I'd been so distracted by the food I'd completely lost track of time. A dismembered middle-aged man was slumped against our fence. The protein for the chili. I should have known, but once again my stomach had betrayed me. No matter how hard I tried to resist my nature, I always found myself face first in human flesh. As the rays of moonlight struck me, I howled with sadness, crying for the man I wanted to be. The light traveled from the undergrowth, through the acre-long backyard, and casting a blue-green radiance into the sliding glass door. This is where the woman stood. Her expression was blank. She goggled at the light, as it was a light that was not glared by any obstruction. She accepted the gleam of color, though. She accepted its sapphire hue, and she accepted the manner in which it made its way around, as if the house were its own. The light traveled up the stairs, and the woman along with it. The light made sure to tread slowly, as the woman was elderly, at 83, and not in her peak physical health. The light reached the top of the stairs, revealing the door that led to the attic, standing ajar. The woman followed as the light gleamed down the hallway. The light and the woman made their way to the top of the second flight of stairs. The window at the opposite wall slowly snuck open. The light proceeded in the window's direction. The woman watched as the light crawled up the wall and disappeared out the window. The woman followed in its direction, and leaned her head out to watch as the light rested on the edge of a boulder. The light's instructions were accepted by the woman. She reached her arms out and placed her palms on the brick wall outside of the window, pushing her body forward. I awake to a cold sweat sweeping across my back. My hair was stuck to my wet face, and my lips were chapped from dehydration. As every morning, my arms and legs were chained to the bed. The bed is pressed against a wall that's filled with damp and mold. The only light is a tiny barred-up window at the very top of the wall, and the only escape is a series of locked and bolted doors. I have never been let outside of this room. He hasn't let me leave yet. I don't know my way around his home, or even if it is a home. Even if I could get out of the room, I wouldn't know how to get anywhere else. As my eyes once again adjust to the darkness, I see him sitting there, at the end of the bed, his dark brown eyes captivating me in his beauty once again. He slowly rises and wipes away my sweat with a clean rag. He always takes good care of me, never leaves me here without food or water, always checks on me every day. As he leans down to kiss my forehead, I smile and go to reach for his face, but my chains don't let me. He straightens up again, and his tall, handsome figure disappears into the darkness, to not be seen for another few hours till it's feeding time. He'd never let me starve. He takes good care of me down here. I know he's my killer, but he's also my lover. I always make sure to shower before bed. I wash my hair, back, feet, and especially behind my ears. I make sure I don't miss a spot, and that I'm all squeaky clean. Then I get out to brush my teeth, put a little deodorant and even some conditioner on just in case. That way, when I climb into bed, get under the covers and close my eyes, I don't have to worry about the thing that comes in my room and sniffs me thinking I smell like a late night snack. So this happened when I went with my best friend to her ancestral home in her village. One fine day, she just called and told me to pack up my things as we were going on a trip to her ancestral home and were taking my car. Fine enough. After 2 days, I got my holidays sanctioned of 8 days from my office, and off we were. Once there, I was greeted like a newborn child. Me and my best friend had known each other for 11 years now, and both of our families had known us for so long now, but it was my first time going to her village. Fine enough. We get freshened up and get changed and all. The problem is that everybody in the village sleeps by 10 p.m., and it's literally no sound by 9 or 9:30ish. You can imagine how it is. It's creepy for a guy like me from a developed downtown area, but anyhow, carrying on the third day, a woman came to meet my best friend's cousin who lives there. She said she'll be living there for 2 days as she just broke up with her boyfriend and was pretty depressed about it. So she needed a place to crash. Fair enough. The cousin agrees. That night we drank after dinner, sorta like a party, and then by 11 went off to sleep. Now, me and my best friend were given a room, and her cousin's friend was given another room. By 1ish a.m., we heard some running noises outside the door. I didn't imagine it because me and my friend both heard it. She asks me in a quiet voice about it, and I agree. I got up to open the door and check it, but she held my hand and requested me not to. Fine, we slept it off. The next night is what happened that scares me the most. Here's why. We drink the next night as well, but this time to the brim. By 12 we were all off to sleep. At 2 a.m. sharp I heard loud knocks on the door. Apparently my friend's cousin was up and asking to go to the door and help her friend. I opened the door, saw her all confused, telling something that happened to her friend. Me, my best friend, and her cousin go to the cousin's friend's room and saw her sitting, curled on the bed in the corner, murmuring things. As soon as she saw the three of us, she charged at us, and that's when I got in front. Held her by her throat, and I held her up. I don't know how, but it happened. Then I murmured some gibberish I can't remember, and as my best friend said, "The place you come from is not for people like you, and by name of the devil itself, cast you out and order you to leave this family alone." But I can't remember it. Was it really me, or something got me to save these people? Help.